Hey everybody, Jeff Harrison here. Well, this is my video on the whole fusion scenario. Well, I said I was going to do a video about the fusion, so here we go. Well, let's start with the first fusion we ever see, Opal. No, I'm kidding, it's Garnet. So, yeah, the show, looking back on it, there were a lot of hints that Garnet was a fusion. Let's take a look at them, shall we?
That's rare.
Oh my gosh! I don't get it. I thought I almost had it.
Nobody expects you to be able to perform fusion right away, Stephen.
Yeah, it's really hard, even for us.
Not for me.
Pearl, look at Garnet.
So, yeah! So, Garnet is quite possibly the... Well, take a look at the other fusions in comparison to Garnet. I mean, let's look at Garnet, Opal, Sugilite, and Alexandrite. Okay? Now, as far as we can tell, the fusions all seem to get bigger in comparison to what they were originally in terms of size. Case in point, let's take a look at Garnet with Ruby and Sapphire. It's almost like they're standing on top of each other. But the thing I notice most when it comes to the fusions is that some of them tend to have extra limbs and stuff. And extra eyeballs and extra bits. Whereas Garnet, who's a fusion, their only extra bit is the third eye in the middle of their forehead. Now, we take a look back at the time when Steve and Connie fused to make Stevani. Amethyst went ahead and said,
Wow! You two look great together!
Now, if we take that and compare it to when Lapis Lazuli and Jasper fused together, making the, well, six-armed behemoth.
Yikes. They are really bad for each other.
That got me thinking, it's probably confirmed or something like that by the studio, but, yeah, the closer your relationship is, the more of a perfect fusion you get. Like, take a look at the... If we take Garnet as an example again, we have, well, Garnet looking very much near enough completely human. Or human form, you know what I mean. But then we take a look at Opal, and, well, she's got 4 arms. So, not a complete total fusion. I mean, that seems to be quite the way their fusions seems to represent how their relationship status is. I mean, Pearl and Amethyst fight a lot, argument a lot, and tend to they're kind of like polar opposites, really. But they still have this deep relationship with one another. They still care about one another. Hence why we have Opal looking the way that Opal does. We then take a look at Sugilite and Garnet. And that might be a case, I'm not sure if that's how their one turns out to be the, well, ginormous beef-up woman with 4 limbs and 5 eyeballs. I'm not sure if that's a case of Garnet's personality, which is a... Well, Pearl reference... Well,
You and Amethyst can be a little unstable when your personalities combine.
yeah, which kind of makes me wonder, is it really Garnet's personality that leads to this whole clash? Or is it a case of Ruby, Sapphire, and Amethyst's clashing together? Because, well, from what little we saw of Sapphire, she seems to be a very cool, calm, collected individual. Whereas Ruby is kind of flying off the handles if she couldn't get near Sapphire. To the point where she was freaking out. Whereas an Amethyst is very much... Well, she's Amethyst. Enough said. So, the way Sugilite is, I have to wonder if it's a case of like the two the personalities of Ruby and Amethyst overpowering that of Sapphire's. Because, well, yeah, in that one you've got 3 people in the relationship. And that then extends even further into Alexandrite. I mean, normal mouth. And then predator mouth! Sorry, alien mouth or predator mouth. Either way, it's an extra mouth coming out from under the jaw. Along with the multiple limbs. And it kind of makes me wonder... Yeah, they've got a relationship enough to fuse into something resembling humanoid. But good God, is it so dysfunctional? It's a case in point, they blew up earlier on when they formed Alexandrite. But they then formed it again to chase after Stephen and Connie. But yeah, that seems to be the way the fusions seem to work. It's very much a case of how the relationship goes with one another. Case in point, Connie and Stephen's has got to be the perfect state of fusion because, well, no extra limbs or extra eyeballs. So, yeah. Their relationship is very innocent, very deep relationship to one another, and seems to be very harmonious. That's not to say Ruby and Sapphire's isn't harmonious, but there is probably some disconnect somewhere along the line between them. I mean, every relationship has its little ups and downs, and that seems to be physically represented in their fusions. I mean, case in point, take a look at Lapis and Jasper's. Holy mother of... I mean, there's not even any legs on that. That is just a mess of arms. And... yeah. Whew. But yeah, that seems to be the way the fusion works for the crystal gems. Which sort of harkens back to how Dragon Ball Z fusion works. I mean, if they don't perform the technique perfectly, if they're not in sync perfectly, if their power levels aren't the same as one another, then, well, you wind up with either skinny or fat version, rather than the harmonious fusion that you get. I mean, you get either walking corpse or walking blimp. So, rather than the fusion that's meant to happen. Although I kind of wonder if Rose ever fused with any of them, what would those fusions turn out like? Would they have extra limbs, or would they turn out to be near ideal human shape? Kind of makes you wonder. But yeah, still, I want to see a Garnet Pearl fusion. Come on! This has to happen! I mean, we've seen Garnet fuse with Amethyst, we've seen Garnet fuse with Pearl and Amethyst as Alexandrite. Oh, we've seen Garnet as a fusion. Those are 2 episodes which must happen. A Garnet Pearl fusion episode, and an episode where we get to meet Ruby and Sapphire with much more information. And yes, I know people are saying, if you're expecting world building, blah blah blah, don't go for the show. But yeah, this show does do world building. This show world builds constantly. It's just hidden in the layers. So yeah. But yeah, there has to be, in Season 2, somewhere along the line, a Ruby Sapphire episode and a Pearl Garnet Fusion episode. Preferably separate episodes, rather than slammed into one. Although now it makes me wonder, what would happen if it was just Ruby and Amethyst fusing, Sapphire Amethyst fusing, Ruby Pearl fusing, and Sapphire Pearl fusing? What would happen then? And if Ruby and Amethyst were the fuse, and then Sapphire fused with that, would that still make Sugilite? I mean, we know that all of them put together makes Alexandrite. I mean, that's a given. But yeah. Again, it's so, so many possibilities! Oh god, so many possibilities. And there has to be at least one point or another where Stephen fuses with one of the other crystal gems. It kinda has to happen. Maybe in a final episode of season 2, we see all of them fused together with Steven to make... Actually, what the hell would that make? I'm now trying to imagine Alexandrite with Steven parts. And I have no idea what I am seeing here. Jeff Archfiend out.